Hey guys, Dustin here. Ready to preview Week 12 of the ACC in football. It is not a fantastic week for the conference. A lot of dud games. There's only a few that are really interesting. There's a lot of teams that are going up against what I consider overmatched opponents. So we'll dive right in here and see if we can figure out what's going to happen. Alright, so first off we have Chattanooga at Florida State. This is a game that almost none of you will watch unless you're a Florida State fan. Florida State is 2-0 in the series, unsurprisingly. In the two games against Florida State, Chattanooga has only scored one touchdown. The biggest reason to even tune into this game is probably to see who starts at quarterback for Florida State. It will probably be Sean McGuire. He has played the best. The team has played the best when he was in there. Everett Golson, they want him to be a pocket passer so badly. He's not. He's a scrambler. He moves the pocket with him and finds receivers. He creates a little bit of havoc on the defense. And Jimbo Fisher and company do not seem to really want that to happen. So I assume Sean McGuire will start. There's no line posted because Chattanooga is an FCS team. But, of course, expect Florida State to win. Next up, we have Wake Forest at number 1 Clemson. Clemson's the unanimous number 1 now after the college poll officially moved them up. This will be senior day for the Tigers. They are playing Wake Forest, a team they have won 6 of the last 7 against. One of the one that Wake Forest won during that time was, of course, Tommy Bowden's last game as Clemson head coach before Dabo Swinney took over. The Tigers lead the series 62-17-1. Bill Clinton was the president the last time Wake Forest won a game at Death Valley in Clemson. I think the big storyline for Clemson here is can they get over the slump that they've kind of started to find themselves in? The last 3 games, they've been ranked number 1 in the country for the first time in the regular season in school history, and they got into a shootout against NC State that they outlasted. They got into a defensive battle against Florida State that they outlasted, and then they had a mixture of the two against Syracuse on the road in a team that they should have put away much earlier than they did. The game in the second half was never really within grasp of the Orange, but you always had the feeling 2 or 3 key plays here and there could have really turned everything. Is the number 1 ranking getting to Clemson? Are they mentally tough enough for the stage they are now finding themselves on? They've had some tough games the last 3 weeks. This will be the easiest ACC game they've had, except for maybe Miami. The line right now is Clemson by 30. That is way too high. Wake Forest surprisingly has a very, very good defense. They were tied with Florida State coming into last week. They're in the top 40 in the country in defense, so I don't expect Clemson to basically have their way with Wake Forest. Let's put it this way. I don't expect the 82-24 result that happened the last time Clemson was a national championship contender this late in the season. But you never know. So I'm not picking Clemson to cover. I think the score will be, the point differential will be under 30, but I do, of course, expect Clemson to win and go to 11-0. Next up, we have Duke at Virginia. The series is currently tied 33 apiece, with Duke winning 6 of the last 7. Duke is all but eliminated from the Coastal Division race. They're in the hunt trying to vie for a decent ACC bowl, trying to get that elusive bowl win, while Virginia, who is not bowl eligible, is trying to save Mike London's job. Not a lot of storylines here. Duke and Virginia have had some rough losses, some near losses, and some near wins throughout the year. So we'll see what happens in this perennial coastal bottom dweller kind of competition. The line is Virginia by 2.5. I expect with Jeremy Cash and Thomas Sirk, I expect them to not only cover, but to win. So I'll definitely take Duke plus the points as well as Duke overall. Georgia Tech at Miami. The series is led by Georgia Tech, surprisingly enough, 11-9. They won last year, but Miami had won the previous 5. Interesting note, Georgia Tech has yet to win a game on the road, this one, of course, being in Miami. And Miami's only home loss was that 58-0 beatdown put on by Clemson. Georgia Tech averages 257 rushing yards a game, while Miami's rushing defense is 105th in the country, allowing 202 yards per game. Miami has played really well under interim head coach Larry Scott. Georgia Tech, unfortunately for them, has had a year to forget after a nearly dream season last year. They almost made the playoff and almost beat Florida State in the ACC title game before demolishing Mississippi State in the Orange Bowl. Very high expectations. They did not expect to be in the position they are now, where they are eliminated from a bowl. Line is Miami by 1. At home, I know they got lit up by North Carolina, but that North Carolina team came back to humiliate that Georgia Tech team, which North Carolina won with the largest comeback in school history. That was in Georgia Tech. I expect this game to go Miami's way. I'll pick Miami plus the points, as well as to win. Now we have Boston College at number 4 Notre Dame. Notre Dame leads the all-time series 13-9, but the two teams have not played since 2012. The most notable game in the series probably happened in 1993 after the game of the century with Florida State and Notre Dame. And number 12 Boston College beat number 1 Notre Dame 41-39. Interesting note, this is the matchup of kind of ACC opponents for these two. Boston College, of course, has been in the league since 2005, but Notre Dame is a kind of, sort of member, and this is the first time they've met since then. Here is the awful, awful truth about Boston College. They have a defense that could very well have had this team in the top 25 all year long. Their defense is one of the best in the country against both the run and the pass. They have the 128th worst offense. To put that in perspective, there's 128 teams. That means their offense is worse than literally the worst team you can think of that's not named Boston College. Line is Notre Dame by 17. With the way that the team is kind of clicking, they haven't faced exactly elite competition, but they've played decent enough competition to impress the committee to put them at number 4. I expect Notre Dame to score by more than 17, even against that defense. They're playing an offense that cannot score if they have the ball at the 1-foot line. So I would expect the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to cover the 17 and to win. Next up, we have Syracuse at NC State. NC State actually leads the series 7-1, with both teams splitting the 2 games they've played since Syracuse became a member of the ACC. Syracuse has played teams very, very well at home, including Pitt and Clemson and LSU, but they're not a very good road team with blowouts to LSU and Florida State. The game is in Carter Finley, which is a very raucous environment. I've been there myself. It is very, very loud. It's a difficult place to play for opposing teams. NC State probably feels like they should have beaten Florida State after jumping out to a 10-point lead early in the game and not scoring after the first quarter. The line is NC State by 17. Since it's in that environment and Syracuse is a very poor road team and NC State has a lot to prove, I'm picking NC State to win plus the points as well as win the game. Louisville at Pittsburgh. This is from 2 teams on 2 opposite ends of the spectrum for preseason expectations. I think Louisville is not doing quite as well as they thought they would, and Pittsburgh is doing much better than they thought they would. They're not, of course, where they want to be, but Coach Pat Narduzzi has them in the right direction. The 2 teams split 8-8 in the series, with Louisville winning the last one when they were Big East opponents. This is their first matchup as ACC competitors. Louisville may have found their quarterback finally in Kyle Bolin. The defense has slowly been getting better. I expect them to play very, very well. See, it's funny. I think Pittsburgh is viewed as a defensive team, but they rank 82nd nationally in total defense. Game is at Pittsburgh, which isn't even their own stadium. It's the Steelers Stadium. Not exactly the best home environment to have. The line is Pittsburgh by 2.5. I expect Louisville to not only cover, but to win, of course, and extend their winning streak to 7 of the last 8. All right, guys, we don't have the greatest ACC slate this week, but the top matchup to me is number 17 North Carolina at Virginia Tech. I think this is a very important game for the conference as well as for each of these 2 teams for very specific reasons. Virginia Tech leads the series 20-10-6, 6 ties, of course. Including 9 of 11 since joining the ACC and 4 of the last 5 at home against the Tar Heels. A win for Virginia Tech gets them bowl eligible. A win for North Carolina wraps up the Coastal. Virginia Tech wants Frank Beamer to have a fantastic end to his career after everything that he has done for that university. I know how revered he is there, and I know how hard the players want to give this to him as a farewell gift. Beating the Tar Heels, who were probably going to win the Coastal, at home on senior day would be an excellent way to start. Unfortunately for the Hokies and the Beamer family, North Carolina still has Marquise Williams as their quarterback. They still have Elijah Hood as their running back, and they still have Switzer as their wide receiver. It's not a very good recipe for beating the Tar Heels when you have a team that can't stop anybody and can't score. Beamer ball isn't really there anymore, and Bud Foster's defense and the lunch pail is not what it used to be in 2005. Line is 6.5 in North Carolina's favor. The way they have been going, I expect them to cover that spread maybe 2 or 3 times over and win. Unfortunately, Frank Beamer's last home game I project to be a loss for Virginia Tech. All right, guys. Well, that's the ACC preview for Week 12. Let me know what you think, what I got wrong, what I got right. I assume most of you think I got most things wrong. Tell me your spread picks and what you guys think of everything coming up this weekend, especially Frank Beamer and North Carolina, that kind of matchup and what's at stake for both programs. So let me know. Thank you guys very much, and have a great day. Chattanooga's an FCS team, but, of course, expect Florida State to win. Next up, we have Wake Forest at number 1 Clemson. Clemson's the unanimous number 1 now after the college poll officially moved them up. This will be senior day for the Tigers. They are playing Wake Forest, a team they have won 6 of the last 7. I want him to be a pocket passer so badly. He's not. He's a scrambler. He moves the pocket with him and finds receivers. He creates a little bit of havoc on the defense. And Jimbo Fisher and company do not seem to really want that to happen. So I assume Sean McGuire will start. There's no line posted because... So we'll dive right in here and see if we can figure out what's going to happen. All right, so first off, we have Chattanooga at Florida State. This is a game that almost none of you will watch unless you're a Florida State fan. Florida State is 2-0 in the series, unsurprisingly. In the 2 games against Florida State, Chattanooga has only scored 1 touchdown. The biggest reason to even tune into this game is probably to see who starts at quarterback for Florida State. It will probably be Sean McGuire. He has played the best. The team has played the best when he was in there. Everett Golson, they want... Hey guys, Dustin here. Ready to preview Week 12 of the ACC in football. It is not a fantastic week for the conference. A lot of dud games. There's only a few that are really interesting. There's a lot of teams that are going up against what I consider overmatched opponents.